Are you ready to take your investment game to the next level? Introducing Digital Investor, your ultimate guide to mastering the digital marketplace. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, Digital Investor brings you cutting-edge game theoretical strategies, expert insights, and real-time tips and tactics to analyze, evaluate, invest, and grow your wealth. Don't miss out on the digital revolution. Visit www.nickblacknex.com and start your journey with Digital Investor today.
There we go. I think I got the comments going correctly. Okay. And those cats are just like little Freddy Kruegers. Just little vibrant Freddy Kruegers running around just tearing things apart, including my legs. I think what it is that they go for the laces, because I mean, if you came across a big set of laces and you had Freddy Krueger claws, you would claw at them too. So I guess that's what it is. Another excuse for Velcro, I guess. All right. So what did we have yesterday? We had Jerome Powell's Nothing Burger. I guess it's closed markets, right? It is closed. I'm not just making that up. So we had Jerome Powell's Nothing Burger, and he kind of backpedaled. I mean, what is he going to say? Uncertainty, which he said over and over. Dual mandate. He said, somebody asked a really good question. They, well, of course, for those of you who don't know, they held rates steady because, of course, they're going to hold rates steady because Donald Trump wants them to cut rates. And you could say, Donald Trump's very political, and why the Trump administration likely is pushing for rate cuts. It's somewhat the signaling effect, obviously, of this kind of free money signaling effect. But we know that's not true because rate cuts don't do that, right? Like, everybody here we are all smart animals, and we all know that rate cuts have zero use or utility. It's a signaling mechanism because when you're looking at a yield curve, it's telling you what the growth and inflation expectations are moving out into the future, and it's telling you what all of these people are thinking. And the people involved in the yield curve are money dealers and brokers and lenders, people that are actually putting their money where their mouth is, right? And so you're seeing the way they hedge. And when you look at a yield curve, it's telling you a lot of the yield curve it's a glowing oracle, and it tells you what people are doing right now, what their belief in growth and inflation expectations are, right? So when Jerome and the other central bank kind of goofballs, because they're not idiots, I mean, they don't really understand inflation. That part's stupid. But these are classically trained economists. And classically trained economists are typically really bad at investing. They're the worst. They're among the worst. And because books from 1963 that espouse Keynesian economics, they don't really teach you how to make money. It doesn't teach you much about the beauty pageant that is investing. But when these bankers, these trained economists, and all their economist advisors start cutting rates, cutting rates is a reaction function. It's a reaction to what's happening in the market. So you see the market, you see the yield curve, central bankers react with rate cuts. Do rate cuts actually affect us? Well, no. However, it does affect the perception of where you think buying power is going to go. Because think about it, it's kind of a couple steps removed, but Trump administration wants the Fed to cut rates. Everybody else is cutting rates, which is pretty true. Everybody else, every other bank in the world. Also, the Federal Reserve is not a central bank because it's not an actual money broker or a money dealer. Other central banks are set up differently, where they do move and kind of manage pools of money. The Federal Reserve does not do this. The Federal Reserve is not and has never been a money broker or money dealer. They don't do money. They do bank reserves and they do rate control. And neither of those things actually affect money in the direct sense. Bank reserves are balance sheet swaps. Banks that are wholesalers that work with the prime brokers that work with the Federal Reserve, they swap ledger entries, and essentially what the Federal Reserve does is goes and takes their quality collateral that they would be lending into the repo market, by the way. It takes their high quality collateral and it strip mines that collateral and puts it on the Fed's balance sheet and then gives these banks bank reserves. And you would think, well, if I'm a bank, what good do bank reserves do? Fucking nothing. They do nothing. What it's supposed to do is push these banks into getting out there and lending and being part of that kind of animal spirited grand market and getting behind entrepreneurs and helping grow businesses and making loans and all that. But that's not what it does. Because when banks get stripped of their money making collateral, they're weaker. So what do? They don't do shit. This is one of the problems. So a lot of times the Federal Reserve's easing, where they're going out into the market and buying up collateral. One, it's not with real money, so they're not really buying anything. These are balance sheet swaps, either directly financed through the Treasury or with the broker dealers, right? So that doesn't affect us. That doesn't affect the real economy at all. It's supposed to elicit behavior, but it doesn't. Because if you're a bank, think about it. You're a bank, and you see rates really low. What does that tell you? Remember, when rates are low, bond prices are high. Meaning, if rates are low, a bunch of people are hiding in those maturities, in that government debt. Well, we're just talking about government debt for a second. So when you look at that yield curve and you see, oh gosh, it's a flat yield curve. One, you're not getting paid to hold longer out in the future. Those longer maturities, those assets you're not getting paid more. And if people are still willing to own government debt that's not paying shit, that's paying 2% or 2.5% or 0% or negative interest rate debt, which is what's being sold like in some parts of Europe, negative. If people, given that, are still willing to sit there, what does that tell you about what they think the rest of the economy is? It's an absolute dumpster fire in their mind. So when you see low rates, that is a bad thing, because in a vibrant, rich, growing economy with free-flowing cash and credit availability and good quality collateral floating around doing its bidding, you would see an upward sloping yield curve, up and to the right. So when you see low rates aren't easy money. Low rates mean there's no fucking money. None. No one's, oh, well, we can borrow for cheap. From who? When rates were down almost at nothing, did anybody here get a nothing interest rate? Did anybody here get a zero interest rate? Zero. Where you just go to the bank, they just, here, take some money and go. And there are outlier stories, right? People with really good credit or just real weird situations where you had sketchy lenders that were trying to just push stuff because they could put cash in their pocket. But outside of like graft, greed, corruption, and criminal behavior, you didn't see much lending, man, because banks are not stupid. Why are they going to go through all the trouble to service a loan that pays 1%? They're like, fuck you. We're not doing anything. What do? They hide in quality, pristine collateral. So the yield curve teaches you a lot. Yes, high rates are good. Olga has it correct. 100% correct. You want to see high rates. High rates are a sign of a healthy economy, right? That's actually pretty good if you're getting 5. But when you're losing, let's face it, not the kind of inflation that they talk about and that Jerome Powell talked about yesterday, because again, he's a smoking idiot. But because they don't understand how inflation works. When some oil sheik jacks up the price of oil or constrains supply, that's not inflation. Okay, so that's just not what inflation is. Those are kind of short-term political events. Those are non-monetary issues. Inflation is the always and everywhere phenomenon, the pervasive, consistent, incessant, grinding fucking monster of devaluation of currency due to the currency supply just perpetually increasing, either through lending into existence or, what would be more called traditional printing, right? Because you can have banks lend in dollar-denominated terms money into existence very easily. That can devalue currency, because at some point those loans, like external loans, $0 loans, they make their way in and around everywhere. And so that money does start to touch society again. Stimulus, that creates inflation. Why? Because that is money. Now, it creates a short-term inflationary spike. That's not long-term inflation either. But if you had long-term plans that continually spray money out into society, well, now there's more dollar units fighting for the same amount of consumable goods, right? So like, you just think of it like eggs. If I'm an egg magnate, I don't even know if there's egg magnates, but let's just suppose I'm an egg magnate and there's 10 eggs for society. And I say, and there's 10 $1 bills. So all the money in society is $10, and here are my 10 eggs. I'm an egg magnate, right? So at first, eggs are all worth $1. Now, if the government prints an extra $1,000, let's make it easy. Let's say they print $10,000. Eggs are no longer $1. What will likely happen is, because you now have more currency units chasing the eggs, the price of eggs is going to start making its way up. Okay, that is inflation through debasement. That's inflation, especially if it's consistent and pervasive. And so you could say, oh, look at the inflationary effects. Eggs are now $100 a piece, $101 a piece, because there's all this extra money floating around chasing eggs. Now, if I, as oil magnate Nick, and I say, I'm going to constrain the supply of eggs from here forward, there will only be 5 eggs. 5 eggs I'm going to hold back. I'm going to sit on them. The Saudis do, the OPEC does this all the time. This is their whole thing. We're sitting on the eggs. Now you have that same $1,010 fighting for 5 eggs. So yes, number go up, but that's not inflation. That is political. That is non-monetary. That's a non-monetary event as far as, relating to money supply. So yes, the price went up, but that's not inflation. The problem with the Fed and these central bankers is they don't know the difference. And the reason why you'd say, well, that's a distinction without a difference. Who cares if they don't know the difference? The price goes up. Yes, I understand the price goes up. And that's understandably and appreciably painful for people, for consumers. I get it. It's not good for me and you, Joe Sixpacks on the ground. But the way that you put those fires out is different, right? The way you put out, like if you have the fire of government printing, like printing into existence currency units that continually and perpetually destroys your buying power, that's one kind of issue, right? And it's one that, in order to change, you have to kind of get into the deep of politics and probably start re-voting and all this kind of stuff. There's no kind of one-click fix for that unless you have an administration that's really like into it. But debasement is what governments do. They print They spend, they print, they spend, they print, they spend. When the inflation effects come, ideally, they're going to pay back all those debts with cheaper currency units because they're printing them. So you spend pre-inflation and you repay post-inflation. That's the dictator's playbook, I guess. But if you have political events like skirmishes and wars and little battles and OPEC ministers trying to constrain supply and price fixing and things like this, while that does make a number go up, the way you deal with those problems is completely different, requires negotiation and all sorts of other things. But it's completely different than the always and everywhere pervasive monetary phenomena of inflation. So those are different animals. The result is, on one, over time, your buying power is destroyed, so things seem more expensive, right? Your buying power is destroyed because there's more currency units, so each currency unit is by unit worth less. Versus political events, non-monetary events, talking heads, angry egos, bullshit like that. And the world is full of these black swan type things. Inflation is not a black swan event. It's a consistent headache grind. So that's just a little bit. It's important that you know this, because I think everybody gets this, but I don't know if they know how to express it. And so when you see, because what someone on financial media or a central banker does is, because they like to simplify things a little too simple. Remember, make things as easy as simple as possible, but no simpler. That was the little caveat that Einstein said, but no simpler. And the problem is, if you oversimplify all of the inputs and noise and information that you're getting from the economy, and you just ignore the yield curve because fuck it, why would I look at what everyone in the world with money's doing? And why would I look in the repo market at what all where collateral is going, where it's getting posted, revalued? Why would I go talk to money dealers, brokers, and lenders in repo? They're doing $6 trillion a day in business. Why the fuck would I talk to them? I have a Phillips curve. I can reduce the entire economy to a Phillips curve. And now all I have to do is, raise or lower or jawbone interest rates. I don't even have to raise or lower them. I can plead uncertainty, which is like pleading stupid. It's like pleading that you woke up with the 23rd triploid chromosome. I can say that again because Trump's in. So you can't reduce the complexity of the economy to a Phillips curve, to a chart, and go, it's clear. Look at unemployment. Let's raise interest rates. What the fuck are you guys doing? They've tried to oversimplify everything to the point where they don't even know how to go back out into the economy and look at data. And the proof is in the pudding. When you listen to these idiots speak, especially Jerome, they contradict themselves all the time. They say, well, we can't make a decision because we have all this uncertainty. But yet, decision-making at the Fed level for monetary policy is also, by definition, forward-looking. They're making decisions to steer the economy. But, also, though, he will remind you that they are data-dependent. Well, fucking which is it, Jerome? If I'm data-dependent, I wait for the data to come in, and when the old, tired, adjusted, readjusted, marked down data comes in, of course, I get it unadjusted. So I'm supposed to make decisions based on the data that I have that has like a 6-month lag, right? That's data dependent. Okay. But then, and by the way, when they do the downward revising on that data, I won't downward revise my monetary policy, but that's neither here nor there. So you get bad data and you don't act on it, but you're data dependent. Now you're forward looking, but there's too much uncertainty to make a forward looking prognostication or to guess what interest rates might do or to guess where the economy might be because it's just too uncertain. Why? Well, inflation. Okay, which kind? Tariff-led inflation. So do tariffs create more money supply? No. So is tariffs inflation? Also, no. Why? Because even in your 1960s books, These fucking morons should know that. That's common sense also. But never mind that. Forget all that. Forget their prior training and the only reason they exist. So you get bad data and don't act on it, even though you're data dependent. And you tell everyone all that, well, to support our dual mandate of maximum price, employment and price stability. And it's our dual mandate, and we are data driven. Okay, cool. But you also said that you are forward looking in your monetary policy, because you have to monitor the future. It doesn't do you any good to monitor the past. Like, okay, yes, we also do that. Okay, great. So you're both forward looking and you're uncertain, so you can't make a decision, and you're data dependent, so you're waiting for old data. Yes. So when do you make a decision? Blue. What? That's a color. That's not even an answer. It is. That's correct. That's so good. That the way of saying it, data-driven delusion. And so what it is this is what you realize. They're all throwing shit at a wall. None of them have any fucking clue what's going on. None of them. And you can tell that because the beige book, their beige book from people that communicate directly with the Fed, business leaders and companies, are telling them straight to their face, we're laying people off. The job environment is not good. We are worried. We don't have money. We do, cutbacks and all this kind of stuff. So they ignore that. They just ignore it because that data doesn't really count, I guess. It's not the kind of data they want. What about sentiment surveys? No, because people are stupid and, just lazy Americans, and they just want to be, strung out on like ketamine and Ozempic. Oh, okay. So sentiment surveys don't count anymore. Right. So what people think doesn't count. Right? Yes. Yet, and I find this is very funny too. They don't believe in sentiment surveys anymore. They used to, but they don't believe in sentiment surveys, which is asking everybody, how the fuck do you feel? I feel bad. Yeah, we don't believe that sentiment. We feel, so you think I feel good? Fucking unemployed. No, but you feel good. Trust me, you feel good. Or we'll just take you off of the survey. Okay, great. So they don't look at those surveys. They don't count establishment surveys. They only count bad data. And another funny thing is, like, when you think about it, like, okay, they don't take sentiment data. Then why are they out there polling? What do they call it? Fed something. There's like a program where they go out and poll. So the Fed does sentiment surveys, and they discount sentiment surveys. Their own shit that they collect, they're just like, no, my friend, we don't count that. How do you not count it? You have a whole group of employed imbeciles out there canvassing for data. And then when you get it, well, it's not the right kind of data. Oh, got it. Okay. Well, then maybe we shouldn't pay you guys to have all those employees go collect that data that you then say doesn't matter because people are stupid. So that data doesn't count as data. So polling data and sentiment surveys, that data doesn't count as data. Oh, okay. Well, Jerome, which data do you take? The 210 forward? We used to, but since it started disagreeing with our monetary policy, we no longer count that. Okay, cool. So you don't really look at the yield curve. And I know that you don't look at SOFR futures because you just don't give a shit about what people in the bond market say because they're all stupid, right? And Americans also that get polled and canvassed in these surveys, they are also stupid. And production managers and hiring officials, they are also, I guess, stupid because you don't believe those numbers. And when people fall off of unemployment insurance, I guess those people are all stupid because they're not employed, but they're no longer unemployed because you're not paying them. Well, the government's not paying them through government programs. So they don't have a job, but they're just no longer unemployed. So, well, of course, you can't take their word for it. They're a bunch of unemployed yobs. Why would you listen to those assholes? They got nothing good to say. They're just negative and so when you tell the world you're data dependent and forward looking on bad data that's so peculiar and obscured, like a fucking moose fly's eyeball, like when you cherry pick tiny, tiny little bits, two parts out of a trillion, and use that as your data set. And then you say, based on this, we're just too uncertain to make a decision. Fuck you. That's it. Oh, God. And also, unrelated, when you're reading a teleprompter, it's short-lived, you dumbass, not short-lived. Short-lived. Well, do you even know what you're reading, Jerome? It's the same fucking statement you've read 14 times. No one's told you to correct it? God damn, man. The real unemployment rate. Gosh. There are ways to kind of distill that. The problem there is also the data, that your data, whatever your data dependence is. What is the real rate of unemployment? I think it's in the 7s. I wonder if we can. You know what? That's a question for GPT-4, baby. That's a GPT-4 question. Let me get to the reasoning model. What is the real rate of unemployment right now if you factor in people that have left the workforce, as well as all of the other data that Jerome Powell tends to ignore? I'm snarky with GPT. GPT and me, we snark together. Okay, so they're checking Wall Street Journal, they're checking the AP, checking the U6 numbers. Well, I can give you some data. I can give you some data points. They're not too pleasing. The headline rate for May 25, this is the headline. This is the official unemployment. This is the U3. Was 4.2%. Unchanged from April. So you think that's not terrible, right? It could be worse. No, it is worse. No, it's worse. The broad labor underutilization, which is the U6, this includes discouraged workers, like we talked about, the disenfranchised, mean, angry American that we don't listen to. The discouraged workers, marginally attached to the labor force, part-time workers that are wanting full-time but can't find it. As of May 2025, the U6 rate was 7.8%. Also stable. So when Jerome Powell, smug motherfucker, sits up there and he tells you things are fine, it's a strong... When I hear the word strong and resilient, I want to slap his punchy face, man. I do want to punch Nancy Pelosi a little bit more than I want to slap him, because she deserves a punch and he deserves an open hand slap. Just a case of act right. 7.8% is fucking horrible. Did you know that every 0.5% that unemployment goes up, 25,000 people commit suicide? Oh, but it's just, we're just unsure. We don't know, man, the numbers. And every 0.5 point, 25 people say good night. Anyway, labor force participation in May of this year, just 62.4% of Americans over the age of 16 were in the labor force. That's down 20 basis points from April, and shows a net exit of 625,000 people from the workforce. 625,000 people no longer have jobs. But Jerome's sorry ass, again, will get up there and jawbone strong and resilient. It's not strong and resilient for the over 500,000 people, which statistically some of them swallowed some pills last night, that can't get hired, can't find a job. And I'm hearing it from a lot of people. For those of you that like have work, or you have money, and all this kind of stuff, congrats. Like, good for you. Because I would say hang on tightly, because it is not easy to get work right now, to find work. I feel like I am marginally employable. I'm not sure. I wonder, you know what I ought to do as an experiment? I ought to go out and just try to get a job. Just go to like regular places, just see if I can get a job. I'll bet you it's not so easy. I mean, obviously, yeah, my charm and charisma and my honey-laden voice, but that's only going to get me so far. Short of popping up an OnlyFans and letting people look at my toes, because I would do a toes OnlyFans. I'd be a toe one of those toe ones. People like toes. You make a lot of money off some toes. I hear. I don't know for sure. But I don't think it would be easy for me to go get a job. And they would say, well, you're overqualified, you're underqualified, you're sideways qualified. They'd say the economy's uncertain. We're waiting to see what happens with tariffs. So there'd be a million reasons. But the result would be, I don't have a fucking job. I just think it's just yuck. And so when these guys get up there and they tell everyone else they're stupid, you're like, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? I don't know, man. That sounds like I'm on the alpha brain powder. I'm always on the alpha brain powder now. I take my alpha brain pills in the morning when I have my protein shake. So I have my protein shake and I go there's like the methylated vitamins, because those are the only, apparently your body will just rejects anything that's not methylated. I don't know. This is just my latest research on YouTube. So I take my methylated vitamins, I take my vitamin C, I take my glutamine, I take my alpha brain pills, I take creatine, lemon. That's why I'm kind of coughing. It's like a strawberry lemon thing, and it makes you like mostly choke for about 5 minutes. I take glucosamine sulfate with MSO, which is supposed to be good for your joints, but I don't know if it does anything because my knee hurts right now and I'm walking around like an idiot. And yeah, and my protein shake is just, I get the ones that are already made. I get the pre-made ones, the Costco ones, Premier Nutrition or Premium Nutrition. But why they're good is they're 30 grams of protein. It tastes like a dessert. It tastes like you're like not. It's so good. It like tastes so good. You feel like you've cheated the system. Anyway, yeah. Okay, more about unemployment because this is important. The underutilized labor rate is high. So the U6 and participation, and these matter way more than Jerome Powell will admit. U6 at 7.8% means that nearly twice as many people are underemployed or sidelined compared to the official rate. That's 1 in 13 working age people facing job market slack, right? And labor force attrition, meaning people just leaving the workforce, that masks a lot of the pain, right? Because so think about this. A shrinking labor force, okay, right? Like it can keep the U3 artificially low. Even as, if I go into some kind of cardiac event, you guys will know who to call. Don't call Jerome Powell because he won't count that as data. So as fewer people are looking for work because they're discouraged or they're retiring early or they just quit, they can't find full-time jobs, they leave the group of unemployed. So because they're that group of 625,000 in May basically is 625,000 people that have just been quietly pushed out of the workforce. Does that make sense? And they're not even looking because they're just like, that's it, it's done. And they're discouraged. That would be artificially discouraging. Well, no, not artificially. That is legitimately discouraging, right? And the discouraged and marginally attached workers, they matter, right? The BLS counts 381,000 discouraged workers. 381,000 discouraged workers. And those are those who've stopped job hunting due to this kind of belief that there are no jobs available. And I see it too. Like I see people are hitting me up like, hey, you know what, if anything, I'm like, I don't know of anything. And I don't even know if I could get employed. Like I don't even know if I'm employable. Probably not because I cuss a lot. Anyway, because the first time somebody interviewing me brings up like uncertainty, I'm going to slap the ripe shit out of them and I got to run. So I'm not getting that job. Anyway, another 1.6 million people are marginally attached, right? So these groups don't count in the U3. And so the U3 number is the headline number that they quote. But if if they're, if you were to look at the U6, there's a reason why they don't talk about the U6, because it's a fucking depressing number that tells the real story of how hard it is. So then you have, what is the real effective unemployment rate? And you can just, game theory it. Use, game theory metrics. U3 is a dominant strategy in game theory terms, right? Why? Because it's easy to report, it's a low number, and politicians can look like they're doing something. Jerome Powell and his assholes at the Fed can look like they've done something, even though they have zero effect on the economy. But they can look like, oh, we're in the catbird seat. We have a lot of tools at our disposal. What tools, Jerome? Tools. Which ones? Name 2 tools. Interest rate control? Bullshit. What? Swapping balance sheet reserves for quality collateral and sticking it to banks, to making it even harder for us to borrow? That monetary tool? All those powers? Wow. Shit, with weapons like that, I'm surprised we don't all just bow down every time you fucking step up to a microphone. But yeah, so it is a dominant strategy, game theoretically dominant strategy, for these guys to come out and just call out the U3 number. U3 is bullshit. Okay? It's a low headline number, looks good. But the U6 and the participation rate reveal the real hidden slack, which is, when you hear slack, they're talking about all the workers that are sidelined by demographics, burnout, labor, lack of opportunity. Okay? So sidelined workforce. Okay. And so the real unemployment rate, if you are Jerome and the other talking idiots, you quote 4.2, which still ain't great. And they always say, well, you don't want unemployment to get too low. Really? So I'm of the mindset that no unemployment would be great. Like I have this crazy idea that if everybody had employment, that would be better than millions and millions and millions of people not having employment. But again, maybe I'm new school or old school or some other school. I'm some other school of thought. I would never make a good central banker. So they'll give you the bullshit 4.2% unemployment rate. Whereas with a broader view, if you look at the 62.4% participation rate, 62%. That's not a passing grade, bro. Even with a curve, that's not a passing grade. Your shit just failed. You know what you call a doctor with a 70%? What do you call someone who got through med school with 70%? Call them doctor. But not 62%. 62%, you're working in India at a veterinary clinic. You ain't no doctor. Well, maybe in India. Not here. You know, American doctor. Not with those grades. So 62.4% participation. 7.8% unemployment. It's just a breath away from 8%. So I guess in answer to your question, what's the real? That was a long boy. We rounded the block with that shit, didn't we? So what is the real effective rate? The real effective rate is even higher, because if you account for exits, you account for discouraged workforce, you account for underemployment, it's likely in the range of 8 to 9%. 8 to 9%. And so Powell and these guys, well, which kind of goes into this question, which is a good one. Powell and these guys, they lean into the U3, which is, again, the bullshit number. And they always say that participation is stable, when that is a fucking lie, just a bold-faced lie. And they say it's a strong and resilient market, which it is not. And that is a fucking disservice to everyone. If I was out there job hunting and I listened to these assholes tell me that it's a strong, resilient economy, participation is great, and we're just not seeing it in the data, dude, I would lose my shit. So if you factor in U6 at nearly 8%, and you factor in 625,000 people that have exited the workforce, and millions of under and marginally employed people, it is clear that the job market, it's not tight. It is sloppy. It is bad. The 4s and 4.2s that they quote is straight bullshit. The real unemployment number is somewhere between 8 and 9, probably closer to 9. And that is discouraging. That bit is discouraging, man. And so do I believe that Powell will go down in history as the most incompetent chair of the Fed? No. Because, I mean, one of the most incompetent was Ben Bernanke. Remember, we have subprime contained. What a dumpster fire that was, that asshole. Oh, man. And he won a Nobel Prize for lying about what happened during the great financial crisis. This dude, he's a creep, and he's a really smart creep too. Like, if you put the early days of Ben Bernanke, he was sophisticated. He was an academic. He published a lot of papers. He was not Milton Friedman level smart, but he wasn't dumb. And then when he joined the cabal, when he was anointed to the Fed, he just got in line. I think what happens is and this isn't sexist. This is mostly because of a few statements. Okay, yeah, it's a good idea. So I think Yellen was the worst, and also I think she's one of the most intelligent. Janet Yellen is an intelligent person who, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe she aged out or something. I don't know what happened to her. She really got stupid. It's kind of depressing. Bernanke he's borderline corrupt. He's definitely morally corrupt. Especially now when he went and basically won he won a Nobel Prize for talking about how he and his buddies fucked the whole world economy through incompetence. So I guess, Green, the answer is yes. Is he incompetent or corrupt? Yes. He's both incompetent and morally corrupt. Subprime is contained. Subprime is contained. It's the worst and most flawed 4 words that were ever spoken during a crisis. Subprime is contained. What a fucking idiot. And it just shows you these people can get sucked into this job, and then I think they realize this is all just political theater. There's really nothing here. It's all just prose, man. It's all just bullshit. And I think they realize that pretty quickly, and they just say, what's the point? And let's just keep the fire burning, right? It was uncomfortable to listen to her, but Janet Yellen comes from good stock. Like, that is a smart woman. She just shit the bed when it matters. I don't know what to say, man. Janet Yellen, everyone. Yeah, I wish I had an applause thing. Janet Yellen, yeah. Okay. We do have a couple of things I want to talk about. But we need to go behind the wall and talk options, because on Thursdays. Now, it's not as great to talk about options today. Why? Well, because the options markets are closed. Why? Because we have a holiday on a Thursday. And I just wish that if we were going to have a holiday, it would be, like on a Monday or like on a Friday. I don't know that I like breaking a trading week in half, especially when you got all this kind of crazy stuff going on. I like my trading days, man. Although on the other side of it, for those of you that are sellers of options, sellers of time, you got another free day of time decay today. And this could be a tumultuous one. Well, depending on how things go with wars and battles and shit like that. If I were to a quick look at the cryptos, where are we at? Oh, everything's pretty quiet. It's all pretty quiet. That's the bad view. Let me get the better view. Let me get the cool view. The digital investor layout. What? Okay, so all 4/10, not much. So today's pretty quiet. Not really a lot to talk about. Say, yay. These weird projects. All right, so there's not really much to kind of dwell on there. So I thought we would go behind the wall and we would just do an open Q&A of just options related questions to see if that works. Do you guys get these weird text messages from these kind of, it's like sketchy numbers, and it's like, Linda, are you ready to go play golf? And like, what's supposed to happen? And then, oh God, like what is it's a phishing attack, right? Like you're supposed to start, oh, my name's not Linda. My name is Nick. Oh, really? Oh, I'm a beautiful, single, rich Asian woman. And I would, okay. All right. Get in line. Bitch, get in line. I got a whole neighborhood here of rich princess Asian women that are all just clamoring to find their next husband. And luckily you wrong numbered me. You thought you were talking to Linda about golf, but you found me, and I guess we can be husband and wife now. Can I give you some money to release some funds from one of your accounts in the Cayman Islands that has millions of currencies? Here, let me send you some. Where do I send that to? What's the easiest way for me to send you that money? Bitch. Anyway, I wasn't born yesterday. No, wait, I wasn't born during the day. And I also wasn't born yesterday. Born at night, I think. At 10 at night. 10:30 at night. Yeah. Anyway, so let's do this. We'll go, let's go behind the wall. And for about 10 or 15 minutes, we'll talk about options, and we'll just kind of keep it open Q&A. I can tell you closed positions. I bought back a lot of the stuff. I told you guys this, but I sold a bunch of stuff on Monday, and I bought it all back on Tuesday. I wasn't the price of Ethereum and Bitcoin didn't really move much yesterday. It certainly didn't move enough for me to resell anything, and so I just kind of sat on the sidelines. So we'll see what tomorrow brings, but let's jump behind the wall. For those of you that are coming with us, great. For those of you that aren't, we love you too. Well, maybe we don't love you. Maybe we just like you. Maybe we're in, this is not, we don't love you. And we don't really like you. We don't not like you. We're in like with you. We're in like with you, right? But we'd be more in like with you if you guys were digital investors. That's some truth. I just spit some truth. So anyway, based on that,
we're going behind the proverbial wall now to continue the broadcast privately for the digital investors and digital private clients. If you'd like to join us, simply go to nickblacknext.com and subscribe to one of our plans and immediately take advantage of our library of tools, tactics, and information. It's all designed to help you learn, grow, and manage your portfolio like a pro. Join us now.